Welcome to Aspects of Writing. I'm your host, James Kelly, and my co-host is Janet Corsi. The topic of today's show is the many aspects of marketing. Our guests for today's show are John D'Amore and Morgan St. James. But before we get to our guest, my panel and I would like to read a few fun quips or quotes. And Jan, would you like to start, please?
Delighted. It will work. I am a marketing genius. Paris Hilton.
Well, I am sitting here looking at the most amazing person I've ever seen. Smart, funny, caring, and absolutely stunning. Yes, I am looking in the mirror. Ash Sweeney.
All right, and John?
If you're a good marketing person, you have to be a little crazy.
Yes.
Jim Metcalf.
That probably describes you as well.
Yes.
All right, and mine is social media is a contact sport. And that's Margaret Malloy. And boy, do I feel that way.
Every day.
All right, if you are just tuning in, you are listening to Aspects of Writing with me, your host, James Kelly, and my co-host is Janet Corsi. Our guests are Morgan St. James and John D'Amore. The topic of the show for today is the many aspects of marketing. Our first guest is John D'Amore, and John's first published work was at age 10. He had written a story about the Civil War and it was transformed into a mimeographed book and distributed through the county school system. And I just want to bring this up. I don't know how many people are going to know what a mimeographed machine is.
Good point.
I don't think anybody
Not
born
in this-
after 1970 has a clue what a mimeograph machine
But
is.
boy, do I remember those, you know.
Me too. Me too.
All right. He went on to write for the school newspaper. As a preteen, John began studying the guitar, which led him to hone his love and knowledge for music and the art of composing. After graduating high school, John played in club bands, opened for touring acts, and by his mid-20s, he was traveling cross-country as a session musician. While touring during the 1970s in his spare time, John became a feature writer for the New Jersey's third-largest newspaper, the Herald News, simultaneously allowing him to enjoy the best of his favorite worlds, playing rock and roll and writing. In 1985, John found a different side of life. He said goodbye, and it's been a slice, to the music business and got a job in the corporate world. By 1999, John, following his desire to become a screenwriter, drove to Los Angeles and never left. He has been writing ever since. Though he claims he's not an actor, John has appeared in several independent shorts and feature films and co-starred in the play Two Nowhere Men and also at the 2002 Cannes Film Festival. Along with The Boss Always Sits in the Back, he's written the screenplays Mad Avenue and The Delivery Man, and the stage play For What It's Worth. He co-wrote feature scripts Rub Down and Deadfellows, and also, did you say 2022 or 2022?
Yeah, 2022.
All right. And the short Women Are Pigs.
Just a darn minute.
Titled by...
I did not title that
We'll be talking.
because the woman I co-wrote it with titled that piece. So
It's good that you clarify that, John.
absolutely.
That's okay. I collect pigs.
Well, John goes on to say that his writing has received enthusiastic industry response, and he is currently waiting for the check that supposedly is in the mail. He continues to write and enjoy his passion for rock and roll.
His book and audiobook, The Boss Always Sits in the Back, is currently in development as a movie. In this satirical follow-up to his memoir, The Boss Always Sits in the Back. It takes a story like Deadfellows to bring together a mixture of genres that cause us to laugh at what we know and to fear what we don't. Deadfellows is far from normal mob story. Once, 4 guys from New Jersey are sent to Nevada to whack a 2-bit casino manager, but accidentally invokes an Indian curse that awakens the dead, who we have buried there over the last 4 decades. Ooh.
That's interesting. I mean, did they really believe that they awakened the dead? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Okay. And Morgan?
Okay. Well, I first met John at, believe it or not, a mob convention in
I
Las
know.
Vegas.
Yeah.
And The Boss Sits in the Back had, I think, just come out recently. And I loved the book. I loved it. It's a story of love and honor and respect and a young man's loss of innocence. John D'Amore, the storyteller, watches as respect turns into duty. And that duty is an order to serve mob justice and kill the boss. From the sidelines, John is there. The underlying story reveals John's relationship with his cousin and godfather, Jerry D'Amore, from 1975 to Jerry's death in 1999. But before Jerry died, John had him tape record the details of what happened behind the scenes, the things John never saw, but knew happened.
And boy, we've all been there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things we know we can't prove, but definitely know.
True.
All right.
Okay.
Again, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Aspects of Writing, and our guests for today's show are Morgan St. James and John D'Amore, and our topic is the many aspects of marketing. And Jan, I'm going to let you take over.
Well, this is an honor and a privilege always. I love Morgan St. James, and she knows it, and she's our next guest. And she's a former interior designer who spent many years designing interior for model homes, celebrities, restaurants, and offices. Her writing career has launched when Designers West magazine approached Morgan and her partner in the design business to write an article. That is when Morgan discovered she loved writing. The article was so well received, she wrote many more published. I'm learning how to speak today. How-to articles for designers. From there, her topics expanded to diverse subjects. Morgan currently lives in Las Vegas and is on the board of Writers of Southern Nevada and belongs to multiple writers groups as well as the National Association of Professional Women. After the Sisters in Crime Southern Nevada chapter was closed down, Morgan declared she suffered from newsletters writers withdrawal. That prompted her to start the Writer's Tricks of the Trade newsletter, which has grown into a bi-monthly Writer's Trick of the Trade e-magazine with articles contributed by writers and people of the publishing business from all over the United States and occasionally some from as far away as Europe.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's
Morgan.
Great. Yeah. All right. Morgan St. James has written over 600 published articles about the business and the craft of writing. Her columns in the Examiner.com were so well received, she wrote the book Writer's Tricks of the Trade, 39 Things You Need to Know About the ABCs of Writing Fiction. That's a long title. As a helpful handbook for writers at all career stages. And Morgan, you also have written helped with a lot of true crime books.
Right.
And memoirs.
Right.
That deal with the mob.
Well, sort of. I wrote one book with true crime author Dennis N. Griffin, and No More Crying Angels is releasing in October. I also helped Cheryl and Rob Cuccio write their memoir, Incest, Murder, and a Miracle, which has received national attention, and they've been on several TV shows in People magazine, getting the story out about abuse and what caused Cheryl to order the hit on her father, who was the abuser. Her husband also died for 43 minutes, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
He's
Yes.
back and with us, and he appears with her. He helped write the book. But it's interesting because most of the TV programs focused on the true crime.
Yeah.
In fact, they never even mentioned what a miracle he was.
Yeah.
Right.
So I write funny mysteries.
Yes.
You wrote The
I
Bella
write-
Mafia.
Yes.
Not a
There's-
funny mystery, though.
No.
Something going on with that.
Oh, is there? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I write the Silver Sisters mystery series. I write the Revenge is Fun mystery series.
Yeah.
And I find when I'm writing true crime or something very emotional that I have to write something funny alongside of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still working
Yeah.
on a corpse in my soup. Sorry.
Now, you have a couple books that you're getting ready to put out. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Payback will be the, I think it's the third book in the Revenge is Fun series.
Yeah.
And there's the three books circled around a trio of women who are kind of wannabe Charlie's Angels, but they're actually executives. And the fourth book in that series is Bumping Off Fat Vinny.
I love Vinny.
Right, that I wrote with Dennis N. Griffin. And I'm also, as I said, No More Crying Angels will be released in October.
Aha. That's exciting.
How many books have you and your sister written together called the Silver Sisters Mysteries?
4, and we'll be starting on the 5th one actually in November.
Oh, great.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
Fabulous.
that's been such an experience because it's not only been writing books about twins with my real life sister, it's been such a bonding experience for us because we barely knew each other when we started writing this series.
Right.
She moved to Alaska when she was 20, and my mom was the conduit between us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she doesn't live in Alaska now.
No, she lives in Oregon now.
Yeah.
You know,
A little closer.
Can't get her out of the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the same thing.
All right. And we didn't ask John, but we will as soon as we finish asking you, where can we find more about your work?
Okay, my website is morganstjames-author.com. And on that website are links to the myriad of other websites that I have. Yeah. My books are all available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble online, just about every bookseller that's online. And they're in paperback, Kindle, EPUB for different platforms, and some of them are also in audiobook.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And John, you have several websites for your books.
Yeah, all the normal ones, just like Morgan talked about. The books are on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Plus, of course, through iTunes. The Boss is available on Audible.com too. And you know the standard stuff: print books, e-books. You have to be make sure that you touch all bases because everybody wants. Well, not everybody, but most people all want. It seems the printed book, and then it's coming up rapidly are e-books, and then a smaller percentage, but still a percentage nonetheless, is audiobook.
Right. That's starting to come into its own, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Down the line, I know I'm going to wind up doing an audio book for Dead Fellas, too.
All right.
Very cool.
All right. And again, our topic today is the many aspects of marketing. And Morgan, I'm going to let you take over here.
Okay. We're going to talk about edit. We're going to talk a little today about the varieties of publishing experience, which leads up to the marketing aspect.
Yeah, that's what our show's about.
Right, right. And I want to read something from an article by Joel Friedlander that was published on October 29th, 2012. And as you all know, our industry is changing by the minute.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
something that was okay last week might not be okay this week.
That's right.
Yeah, so here goes the excerpt from the article. I'm not sure how many of you authors who took the leap and self-published your own book know quite how heroic you are. Although many of you have already self-published a book, there are many more writers who are thinking about it, reading about it, and testing the waters. And that's a good idea. There's no reason to rush into self-publishing, particularly if you think about what you'll be taking on.
And you know, one of the things that's interesting about this is that we had a guest on who, because you mentioned how it changes constantly.
Yes.
So we had a guest on, an author on, who said that every time something new comes out, he'll write a book just so he can try it.
Yes.
Well, you know, this is a program for writers.
Right.
And one of the things that I'll mention that I've found, because John, you mentioned iTunes, I discovered a website and service called Draft to Digital. Are you familiar with that?
I've not heard of it.
It's excellent. It's as good or better than Smashwords for digital books, and it puts them up for sale on every single digital site, you know, like iTunes, Scribed, every single one of them.
And what was that again?
It's Draft and then the number 2 digital.
Draft to
.com.
Digital. Okay. All right. And John?
Well, you see, there are many skills you'll have to learn, such as the various companies that offer publishing services. It's a lot of work, and it'll test your emotional resources. It'll tap into your assets and test your abilities to understand and grasp the reality of publishing. And it'll sometimes even test the reality of your own character.
Boy, is that ever true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
We're all in agreement
I
there.
will attest to that. I will
Yeah.
certainly attest to that.
And you know, John, there are so many avenues you can go out there now and publish. We talked about that on the last
Right.
show. Just seems like yesterday almost.
Yes.
It was yesterday.
And, you know, it is amazing how many avenues you have when it comes to publishing. So you can almost get lost in trying to figure out which company to go with. Jan?
And, you know, it's so true. And there are so many people who are passionate about getting their work out there, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to see their book in print and up for sale. I admire that kind of dedication. But don't let this prevent you from doing the best job possible in putting your book out. And one thing, you got to have a good editor, because what you put out is a representation of yourself. So you want the best you can do. But don't get crazy and edit. Make it done.
I
Yeah.
want to. I'm
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I want to mention another factor too. You need a good cover.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
there are so many Mickey Mouse covers out there
Yes.
on self-published books, and it almost screams, I'm a self-published book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, John, when you did your publishing, did you do everything yourself, or how did you go about it, or did you?
I, as far as publishing it, though I say I did it myself, I was very fortunate in finding a company in a very unique situation. I was approached by the president of the company about a year and a half before I even thought about self-publishing my own book. And I was editing and formatting for him, working in L.A. as a script doctor after the writer's strike. Most writers were scurrying around looking for any work we could possibly find. And I was contacted by this gentleman who owns a book formatting company,
Okay.
and a small little company, and he was giving me a lot of work to edit and format, and I was learning how to do it. And I was seeing the product that was going out and hearing that these people were selling several thousand copies of their ebooks by having a series of detective novellas, actually. And I just couldn't believe it. Do I have a couple of minutes to tell a story
Sure.
about why I wound up self-publishing?
Why? Yeah. How did you end up self-publishing?
Say that again, sorry.
How did you? How did you end up self-publishing?
Okay, here's how it happened. I'm sure I've told Morgan this story, but when I got to Los Angeles in 1999, I immediately set about, like you said earlier, writing the screenplay set about writing the manuscript for The Boss Always Sits in the Back. Took about a year and a half, and before I had a very good draft that I felt confident with. And I was told very bluntly, "Oh yeah, you're very smart to come to Los Angeles to write a book. It should have been done in if you want to sell this
You were
thing,
on the East Coast,
go
right?
go back to New York, and you can sell it, in New York. We sell screenplays." So I wasn't about to go back to New York. I live now in L.A. for, like I said, about a year and a half. So I went, and all the while, and I'm sure Morgan will agree with me on this, 3 weeks after I got to L.A., I joined a writers group. And without a doubt, a good writers group is essential. Whether you think you're a great writer or not, having a good writers group to bounce material off of is essential.
You're
Anyway.
right, I agree.
Yep.
Thank you. I in this group there were fantastic screenwriters, and I took about 8 months off of writing any further work or doing any editing on The Boss Always Sits in the Back, and I learned how to write screenplays. And the good part of that was I found a career that I should have been doing when I was in my 20s or 30s, and I was now in my 40s, and I had this knack for working in formatting and editing screenplays, to the point where about a year and a half after I had it under my belt, the people who taught me screenwriting were now paying me to edit their material.
That's great.
So, yeah, that was a great compliment from these people to me, without a doubt. And so I then adapted the book into a screenplay. Now, this is where comes down to how did I wind up self-publishing my book in 2012, when this story actually starts around 2003.
Okay.
I was told by a great actor, James Mathers, at the time. He's since passed away, but he was part of a reading, and he said to me in 2003, "You know, John, you should self-publish this manuscript for The Boss Always Sits in the Back." And I said, "James, not a chance. Not a chance. Hollywood is going to buy my screenplay, and then Random House is going to pay me $1 million for the rights to my book." Okay, cut to about 2008. I'm doing another reading for a different screenplay, and James comes up to me and he says, "You know, John, this self-publishing is getting big, and you should really self-publish The Boss Always Sits in the Back." And I said, "Are you crazy? You know what's going to happen? I am going to get Random House to buy the rights to my book. They're going to publish it, and Warner Brothers is going to make my movie. And that's how it's going to happen. I'm not going to self-publish."
You were never delusional, were you?
No, not at all. But I was perfect for Los Angeles.
You sound like about 40 people we know.
It's now
Only 40?
2011. It's now 2011. I'm working for this formatting company, and James comes up to me and he says, "You know, John, you should really self-publish Boss Always Sits in the Back." And I said to him, "You know something, James? I think you got something there."
Yeah, right.
And so I then took off literally about a year to learn everything I possibly could. Of course, during that year, I had the cover art for The Boss Always Sits in the Back taken care of, sent in my copyright information, got my ISBN numbers, made sure the manuscript was as perfect, and I think Morgan will agree. She's read the book. I don't think you found any mistakes in that thing. And,
No, I loved it.
I had line editors go over that thing. It was perfect. All I needed to do now was learn what was self-publishing, and I spent the next year learning that.
What
And
year
when
was
I
that?
Felt that from 2004. Check that. From 2011 into 2012,
Okay.
and the book was released on May 1st, I believe, 2012.
Okay.
And so that's my little humorous story about, I'll never self-publish to now I'm considered, the king of self-marketing and self-publishing and all this stuff because of what I've done. But whatever you think you can do, if you believe in your product, and if there's really a market for it, and you have the ability to control every aspect of your product, self-publishing is the way to go. If you want to go to New York City and bang your head against the wall to try to get an agent and a publisher who, well, I'm sure, again, I don't have to tell you folks,
Yeah.
once they sign your product, if it's not a major seller, they're not going to do anything about promoting you or
Absolutely.
putting you on the road of marketing you. So if you believe in yourself, like I believed in myself and my product, I was over a 5-year period, I was able to sell about 22,000 copies.
That's fantastic.
Very
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So carry on with where you were going, James.
Well, what's interesting is that you kept saying, "I'm going to get a traditional publisher," In my case, I wrote my first book that came out. I actually wrote it as a screenplay first, never thought about making it a book. And then I happened to be going to Kinko's for printing. And there was a book there by Dan Pointer about self-publishing. And I thought, you know what, maybe if I self-publish this book and get it out there. I never thought about going to a traditional publisher. Maybe I'll get the book out first and that'll help sell the screenplay. So I actually self-published without ever the notion of getting a traditional publisher. But that was so difficult back then, because this was in 1995.
Oh,
I thought, oh, this is too expensive. This is too much. I'm going to go ahead and send some query letters out. I probably sent out about 300, and I probably got about 300 rejections.
At least they took the time to reject you. And I don't want to deviate from where we're going, but I would love to hear what is the real percentage of people who get an agent or a legitimate publishing company, not somebody who charges you to print your own book.
Right.
But I would love to hear somebody who sent a query letter to a high-level agency or a high-level publishing company and actually got the deal that they were happy with.
It's probably
I'd love to hear that.
it's probably a fraction of a percentage, because 300 authors are published every day.
If it's 1%.
Yeah.
So when
Well,
people say to me, John, help me write a query letter, I'm like, why?
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
write something from the heart and very short. Here's my screenplay, or here's my manuscript. Here, a quick 2-paragraph overview of it. I hope you'll consider it. And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have to say, I was with 3 different small press traditional publishers, and I did manage to get the contracts through, as they call it, over the transom. On one of them, I did have an introduction from one of their writers, but I was able to get those, and I also do have an agent now for not the book, but what might happen with Incest, Murder, and a Miracle.
Mm-hmm. But there's so many things that can go wrong in this industry, though, because when you're out there looking for an agent, there are so many who will say, okay, if you'll just give us $200 or $300 for
Right.
postage, we'll represent you.
Right, been there, done that.
And they have
That's
like
not
400 or
an agent.
500.
That's not an agent.
Right, that's not an agent.
No.
But if you're new to this business, you're desperate, and you're going to do everything you can to try and get an agent. And I had a situation where my agent that I had paid, by the way, because I didn't know, I wasn't supposed to. I actually had to deal with Creative Artists Agency through an agent there, but she wanted my agent to speak to her because she was representing my book to producers, but she wasn't a literary agent. So my supposed literary agent, she wanted him to call her to negotiate it. He thought I was trying to fire him. He told them off, and we lost that deal.
Oh my God.
So, that's why you've got to be very careful when you're out to. If you have someone who you have to pay anything, they're not an agent.
Right.
Do you know, I
Right.
was at a writer's meeting, if we have the time to
Sure.
just say this. I was at a writer's meeting, and this woman who was a novice got up and she said, I want to find out if I should continue with my agent. I've already paid her $8,000.
Oh, my
Yes,
God.
I pay her $2,000 a month to represent my book, but nothing has happened yet. Should I still be with her? And everybody was in shock,
Oh, my goodness.
And the
Well,
president,
maybe I had a real agent then.
the president of the writers group said, well, that doesn't sound right at all. Did this agent have any credentials? Well, her husband was a best-selling author. But did she have any deals of her own?
Right.
I don't know.
Oh my
And
God.
like almost in a chorus, the whole group said, "Dump her."
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you see, even the ones with credentials.
Right.
Well, they, when the boss came out, I actually got a publicist. Okay, I had a budget, and I knew I needed to get out there, and I didn't know the best way to do it. And I would contact, obviously, publicists in the New York City area. They wanted a certain part of my body, and
Right.
and yeah, that part, and and $5,000 a month, and there was no I was like, oh, I'll give you $5,000 a month. Can you guarantee I didn't even want $5,000 profit from my books. I just wanted, you're going to guarantee I'm going to sell $5,000 worth of books? And they no, there's no guarantee to anything we do.
Right.
Right.
And I did find one that I was able to, and the rule of thumb certainly applies, my friends. You get what you pay for.
Right.
Yes.
I found one in L.A. on Melrose Avenue, and I got her down to $3,300 for 2 months.
Well,
You know what I got for $3,300? I got a damn good press release.
Okay.
And one really good radio interview back in New Jersey from a very high-rated
Radio show?
daytime talk show radio host.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was it.
Wow,
Everything else
$3,300.
I got through my contacting people and getting things to happen. And I regretted it, and that was my first tour. I've done, in the last 5.5 years between The Boss and Deadfellas, I've done 4 tours, and the 3 that I did were the most, I had most
Productive.
exposure and profitable.
Yeah.
So again, you have to have that ability. You have to have that marketing ability to be able to promote yourself.
Well,
Because it's cheaper than getting somebody else who really doesn't care about you and makes no guarantees.
Right. The important part is the no guarantees.
right.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna go over the pre-marketing. We're gonna go step by step, and then we're gonna literally talk about how you've marketed, and Morgan, what you've done for marketing. So the first thing we need to let people to know, because we're following up a little bit to what we talked about last show, is to proofread the entire manuscript and all other created content, and that is so important.
Absolutely.
To make sure, because if you send it out to an editor and they send it back to you, you can't just accept what they have. You still have to proofread it.
Sure.
And then you need to develop the interior graphic design and the page layout. You have to make sure. I have one book that I sent out to a printer, and when I got it back, the margins were different. So, you still have to watch for all that. You have to identify a short list of potential reviewers and testimonial providers. And I don't know if you've used any of these, John or Morgan, like fan fiction is one. John, you and I had talked earlier, and you had actually said that you had outdone 50 Shades of Grey. And just so you know, she used fan fiction as a beta reader for her book, and that's what launched 50 Shades of Grey.
Really?
Wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
I had
know
heard
that.
that. Yeah.
So, and the other one is Wattpad, and then there's a script biofile. Those are like 3 you can go to, but fan fiction is probably the biggest one. And
I'm
you
not even familiar with
Yeah,
that.
they're beta readers. You go on there and you actually have categories. You can select the category your book is in, and then you click on that, and then you can narrow it down to the people who are actually interested in the book that you want critiqued. And then they suggest what you do is offer them a free copy of the book. Don't just send them a file. So my suggestion to Kelly Schwartz, as a matter of fact, I suggested to him with his new book is what he should do is go in there to get his reviews, to go in there and offer a free version of Kindle, because most people have a Kindle reader, and then they can download that and read it for free, and then they'll give you a critique. So you're winning 2 things here. You're getting a critique of your book, which your review you can use on your own websites. Plus, if they put a decent review on Amazon, the more reviews you get on Amazon,
Yes.
The better it
more,
is.
because they'll promote your book if you have enough reviews.
Yeah.
So fan fiction is probably the number 1 I would look at.
Oh, I have to check that out myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then number 4 is create 1 to 3 chapter digital, send to reviewers and testimonials. And John, I want to ask you and Morgan both, did you send out anything for review or for testimonials?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. Where did you send them
Go ahead,
to, and
Morgan.
how did you go about finding that list?
I generally sent to people that I knew,
Okay.
But asked them for an honest review,
Right,
honest
right.
critique. And like in the case of Incest, Murder, and a Miracle, the Discovery ID producer of their 2 segments gave us a testimonial which, bore a lot of weight. And wherever I could, I'd have somebody who had the credentials to back up what they were saying. But then I also got things from authors that I knew, editors that I knew. And, I sent out some queries to reviewers at random that I got from a list. And you know what? I never got a response except for one response. Sent her the book and she loved it.
Okay. What about you, John?
Well, a lot of what Morgan said, I'm just not going to repeat because just like her, I did the exact same thing. It's what we do. But a lot in my case, as you saw from, or as you could see from the reviews on my on the 2 book websites, those are blatantly the blurbs that were written on the back of each of my books by the people who best-selling author panel at the bars, because the boss, in the boss, I start life as a musician, and of course, if you know who Pamela is, she was the perfect person to give a review on that. Also, because it's a mob book, and Morgan and I know the guy, Frank Collada, who's a great guy to have right on the back of my book. And so Frank's on the back of mine, and a couple of other people who wrote books about New Jersey, which obviously I write about the New Jersey mob. So those people, they were essential. And then on Deadfellas, I have the editor-in-chief of Girls and Corpses magazine, who wrote a review, and a guy who has a series of zombie books that he's written and has done very well with. And just a couple of other people. The famous rocker Carmine Appice, who had a best-selling book, and he's just he liked the way that I used music to discuss the errors that I write about. I have various songs and performers referenced throughout that time, so anybody who's reading it has an even better idea of what the time was like and what was going on. But anyway, that's what I did. I got people who were successful in what they've done to write on the back of my books.
Right. And I did that as well. I did the same thing with my first novel.
Right. And what I did with Ripoff, since it was a whole scam and the FBI was involved and so forth, thanks to Denny Griffin, I was put in touch with Joaquin Jack Garcia, who was an undercover agent for FBI for over 20 years. And he also had a best-selling book called Making Jack Falcone. And he gave us a great blurb for the book. He said that, of course, it was well-written, witty, so forth. And then he said, it's a good thing they weren't crooks.
Wow.
Well, one of the things you have to do, too, is you have to make sure that you have all your necessary things for the front of the book, like your title page, the copyright page, table of contents, testimonial page, anything you want, like acknowledgments. And it makes it look professional. You know, today you have the ability to make your book look just like the traditional publishers.
Absolutely.
You also want to design that front cover and back cover to where it looks professional. If you have to get help for that, there's places you can outsource that. And then you have to obtain an ISBN. A lot of people don't obtain an ISBN. They'll go with the generic, whether it be with CreateSpace or Kindle Direct Publishing or Lulu, or they'll go with, wherever. And that's okay, but if you're going to take yourself seriously as an author, sometime down the road you need to create a name for yourself. Yeah. And you guys had mentioned, both you and John had mentioned about traditional publishers and whether it be getting a traditional publisher or self-publishing. And Morgan, I know you know this. Sometimes it's great, even as a self-published author, to go out there and get your own ISBN, create your own company, because now you look like a professional publisher. Even if it's a small company, at least you can present yourself as a publisher.
Right. Well, I went a little different route.
Okay.
I originally bought a block of ISBN numbers, and I used them in the beginning, and I had a graphics artist design the company logo, and I do everything that makes it look like it's not me.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And it's not Morgan St. James Publishing, although there is a company called James Morgan.
Right.
But I did everything to image it. When I had a marketing and promotion business, that was one of our specialties, was taking smaller companies and making them look bigger. So
Yeah.
Right.
I applied that same thing to the book. But then I discovered with CreateSpace that if I used my own ISBN number, I didn't get as much distribution. So, and it may be different now, but when I
Yeah.
first started, if you used your own ISBN number, you wouldn't get all the expanded distribution. So I started using the CreateSpace ISBN numbers. But, you know, when people look at the book itself or look at anything about it, it still looks like it's Marina Publishing Group. It's not CreateSpace.
Yeah, but the only difference is when you go to the section on the page itself where your books for
Oh,
sale.
right. It says CreateSpace.
Yeah, and the thing is that with distribution with Amazon, you're not going to get the same distribution as you would with another company like Ingram anyway, because
Yeah.
they're not going to get their books in the store on the shelves. You'll get it on their websites, but you won't get it in like Barnes and Noble's on the shelf through Amazon because their markup's not as much.
Yeah, but I used to. There were several books that I did get into Barnes. and
Yeah, I'm
Noble.
sure years ago.
But let me tell you, I think with the way the market is, they've really tightened up on what they will do with self-published books
Right.
or small press
Right.
coming in and ordering for shelf stock. Because I approached them with Incest, Murder, and a Miracle. And there was TV, there was People magazine, there was all kinds of publicity that you can't buy. And guess what?
They wouldn't.
They said we get too many self-published books in.
Right. Yeah.
And people were going into Barnes & Noble trying to buy the book. And they say, well, we can order it. And they said, well, then I can order it from Amazon for less money.
Well, I will tell you this, though. One of the things that you need to do to just so if nothing else, if someone goes into the store and
Right.
wants to buy it, is at least register with Ingram.
Oh, well, as long as it's in Bulker, they can. And
be-
Ingram.
Because if Ingram, if you allow them to do a 55, you get to choose. If you allow them to do a 55% markup and returnable,
Yeah.
then they will place the orders for you.
I see.
Yeah, that's the difference because you can
Well,
choose.
let me just throw something in right there.
Sure.
Okay. And when I did The Boss, I had it printed myself by a printer in
Okay.
California.
All right.
I didn't use anything. And of course, Barnes and Noble didn't want to come near me because, it wasn't to my advantage between what they wanted me to do, who they
Right.
wanted me to go through,
Right.
and my shipping and everything. It wasn't to my advantage. So, but when Dead Sellers came out, I did it. I had it through Ingram, and of course they now allow me to go to Barnes and Noble.
Right.
But let me just say something. I did a Barnes and Noble in Calabasas, California.
Uh-huh.
Beautiful place,
Right.
magnificent. And if anybody's listening from Barnes and Noble, look, I'm not happy, and I'll tell you why. Okay. And I just did another one. I mean, in my travels across the country during this tour, I got to North Carolina at some point, and Asheville, North Carolina. Oh yes, we'd love to have you. Love to have you. Now, Calabasas, they refuse to let me do a reading, and that's my big sales point.
Right.
When I get up and do a reading, and I'm not saying this will happen to everybody. I'm very fortunate. I sell 40% of the house. Whatever sits in front of me, statistically, I sell 41, 42%, sometimes 37%. I keep track of all this stuff.
That's good.
Anyway.
Yeah.
They refused to let me do it. I said, what are you going to, what do you do? Oh, we'll have a special place for you, Will. And I said, okay, here's the special place. You walk in the door. It's a huge store. The entire second floor is children's books.
Okay.
They have, and the entire store is filled with aisles, okay? There I am in the atrium. And they say, and there's a poster of me and a little table with about 35 or 40 of my books that they ordered. And they expect me to stand there and accost every person that walked in. I said, hi, have you heard about my new book? Now, what do I do when a nun walks in Barnes & Noble and I ask her if she wants to read about zombies? Mafia zombies.
She might.
I mean, and you know, a mother with, you know, two little kids. You know, and I told them, I said, you know, I'm pretty smart. I can determine who my customer base might be, especially based on if they look at the book, they look at the picture, they look at me. I'll say, well, they tell me how they want it done. I say, yes, okay, sure, no problem.
Right.
And I do it my way. And I, you know, and I, you know, and they said, oh yeah, the average author, you know, unknown author, might add. I mean, of course, if Stephen King was there, he'd sell 400 books. But
Right.
Or
you
more,
know, people of John D'Amore's ilk. You know, she says, well, you know, you hang out for like 3 hours, and you'll usually sell about 8 or 9 books. So I was like, if I'm going to hang out anywhere for 3 hours and sell 8 or 9 books and have to give you people 40%, you're out of your mind. So
Yeah.
I did it my way. I sold about 22 books in about
Good.
2 hours.
Yeah.
And I says, okay, time for me to go. Okay, that's that. Then I get to North Carolina, and I certainly hope I'm not blowing one of your advertisers here by I hope Barnes and Noble isn't way. Anyway,
No, not yet, anyway.
I get to North Carolina,
Maybe never.
and
Yeah. If they were in
and
the
the
making, they're
manager-
not anymore.
okay, that's true. So I get there, and the manager meets me at the door. Oh, John, we're so happy to have you here. Great. Where do you want me to stand? Oh, just sign these 14 books. Let me put a sticker on it that says autographed by author.
I saw your
And you
picture
can-
of that.
And you can leave. And
What?
you can leave.
Yeah,
What?
yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
And by the
I
way,
lost-
you'll get
I-
those books back if they don't sell.
Yes. I lost my mind. You know, so, you know, I like selling my books, but just people like me, I can't speak for all self-published authors, but people like me who go out on the road and promote my book. I mean, there's no other way you're going to sell tens of thousands of books, whether they're ebooks, audio books, or print books, if you're sitting at home depending on Facebook.
no, that's
Right.
not
You know?
going to do
But
it.
you know, you brought up some important points right there I want to hit on, John, in the sense that when you go into a Barnes & Nobles, for instance, I think what I hear you're saying, from what I know in this business as well, because I've represented several authors, is that they have a preconceived notion that every author is going to be the same.
Yes.
And that's not true, because when I used to do book signings, I'm like you. I used to do a lecture before my signing, and I sold a book to every person at my lecture. And that's because I
Exactly.
talked about self-publishing, and that's what brought them into
Right.
the store.
Right,
But
right.
one of the
That's what
things I
brought them in.
learned, but one of the things I learned from the events coordinators at these stores is they said the majority of the time those lectures don't work. That's why they don't want to do it. But the sad thing is they're grouping everyone into one group. Instead of those who are self-published that have some knowledge and have some idea of what they know will work, they're grouping us in with the people who don't have a
Right.
clue. And that's where they're making their mistake. They need to allow those, like yourself, John, or Morgan, who knows what's going to sell. And if a lecture helps sell, then that's what
Sure.
you need to do to sell your book. And we talked about this on the last show, Morgan,
Right.
how, you know, with Stephen J. Cannell, he mentored me and told me that's what you need to do.
Right.
He is the one who suggested I talk about self-publishing. And it worked.
Absolutely.
So I do think they're making a huge mistake when they group everybody. They should at least almost interview the person they're going to do the autographs, have the autographs there with, and say, what
You
has
are
worked?
absolutely
Right.
correct.
What worked for you? Just ask them, if you've done this, what has worked for you?
Right. Well, you know, isn't that a corporate mentality, though?
I know.
Because you see that not only in book publishing or bookstores, you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Where they have a preconceived notion of what a group of people will do, and they don't move to that next step to find out what this particular person has done or can do.
Well, you know, and then we talked about this on a show as well. I had an author who, all my authors, I knew what they could do. I knew how they presented
Right.
themselves. So when the events coordinators, when I would set up a signing, I would tell them only order 15 books. One author, I would say order 20 books or order 25 books. And then I'll have them
Right.
bring extra books with them. And if they need to, they can go to the car and get them. And it worked. But invariably, you're always going to find one person at one of those stores who's going to know more than you know your authors, and they're going to say, well, this is what we do.
Yes.
And I told the story where one person ordered 60 books, and I knew they couldn't sell 60 books. And guess what? Back we got 59 books back.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know.
Can I just say?
Well,
Sure.
James, I just wanted to try to bring it back. I think you want to talk about these 21 points, and I think you only got about 15 minutes left.
Well, you know,
and I think you're on number 9, if I remember correctly.
but the good thing is we're talking about marketing, because this is
Are we
exactly.
going to have to do another show?
We may have to, John. We may have to.
Sounds
we,
good.
we seems like we always do this.
Yeah, James has me on a rubber band. I just keep coming
You,
back.
you know who I feel like? I feel like I'm with CNN. I have a panel that always comes back.
That might
yeah, but
not
I
be a
don't
bad
see
idea.
I don't see my name going across.
Yeah. Well, I want to say before we go any further, I had a great time at Barnes and Nobles in Henderson.
Yeah, and you did well.
and I
They're
did
very
very
good.
well.
They're
And
good over there.
They treated me really good. They put me right there at the front door, and
Yes.
and people were pointing at me. Hey, did you talk to her yet? Did you talk to her yet?
But I will
And-
tell you this: that's one store that's really good to their office.
Right.
They are so
Yeah.
They
nice.
are.
And John, if you're ever in Las Vegas, we can hook you up there.
They're fantastic people.
Yeah, they are. They understand it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. All right. Well, so number 10 is this register book with books in print. And just so you.
Great non sequitur. I got.
But I want to ask you guys. But I want to ask you guys about books in print, because I've heard pros and cons to that. Like, do you have to? If you have to spend a lot of money to put your books in print, is it really worth it? Because who's going to see the title? There's so many out there. But you can go to Nolo, or you can go to Books in Print and register. Also, obtain a copyright registration. You should always do that.
Absolutely.
Select the book manufacturer to complete the printing and binding of your books. And you had mentioned, John, you went to an outside printer to get yours done the first time. So that leads into a
Right.
marketing question for you. So since you're on the road and you're not always going to Barnes & Nobles, you're doing a lot of consignment sales. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do a lot of independent bookstores and libraries.
Okay.
And I do a lot of not really. You're gonna love this. Again, let's remember the subject of my first book, which is blatantly the mafia.
Right.
And so I get to do, like I'm doing in Cleveland, a lot of Italian American foundations.
No,
A
that's
lot of
fine.
Italian
I have an
American
author.
brotherhood.
I have an author who did the Irish and the Italian
Yeah.
things
There you
in
go.
Chicago, because her
So
book's
these-
based, you know.
I do a lot of these. And one time, years ago, I think like 4.5 years ago, I was asked to come to Memphis to speak to the Memphis Mafia, the guys who used to work, the guys that are still alive, who used to work for Elvis Presley.
Okay.
And so I'm pretty much. I enjoy doing bookstores, but come on, for people like us,
Right.
a bookstore is going to take 30 to 40, sometimes 45%, and they want you to do all
Barnes &
your
Noble
shipping,
takes
blah,
50.
blah, blah.
They get 55%.
So you do your libraries, I have Italian restaurants set up, John D'Amore night back
Yeah.
in New Jersey, where, I'm able to go there and sell 60, 75%
Right.
of the population.
Right.
So and we get to keep all of that. All we have to do is pay for the printing of the book.
Right.
We don't have
Right.
to give anything away.
But you know, in Vegas, we have a whole series of authors who do what they'll talk about what they've done on the show when it comes to Barnes and Nobles or Books of Man.
Right.
But the reality of it is, the ones who are aggressive, they are going to. We have one who does a
Oh.
senior citizens thing
Yeah,
every.
Stephen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have people who go to all the independent bookstores here in
Right.
town, and then you've got people who
That's
go to
great. That's
restaurants or pubs.
Sure.
Okay,
Or
you're in
like
charge. You're in
Franklin.
charge.
I was
You're in
gonna-
charge of booking. The boss always sits in the back for readings in Las Vegas.
What's my percentage?
I tried to get into the Mob Museum. They said, you can sit at a table and we'll put a picture of you over you, or a picture of your book over you. And as people walk in, you can say, "Hi, I'm John D'Amore. You want to hear about my?" And I'm thinking, what? I got to do 42 presentations.
Well, actually,
No.
John, let me say that I had a signing at the Mob Museum a few years back, and it was actually one of the best ones that we've had.
Yeah.
Because where they set the table was right as everybody's coming out of the museum.
Right.
And then they also stocked the books.
Yeah, Oscar Goodman was there. I was there for that one.
Yeah, I wasn't there for that one.
That
but
would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
because
you know,
they had.
you and I may have to do a book signing together.
Okay. Morgan?
Oh, no, I was going to go back to one thing John said about the libraries, and I don't see it on this list as
Okay.
something you should do.
Uh-huh.
And you should get a Library of Congress number because that's what the
Okay.
libraries use to order.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not
Yeah.
hard. It's no harder than doing the.
I want to
copyright.
ask you about that, though. Should you do that before it goes into?
Yes.
Yeah. Before you. Yeah.
Yes, you can do it as a work in process.
Okay,
And then
okay.
as soon as the book comes out, you have to send them two
A copies,
copies, I
yeah.
think 1 or 2 copies of
To
it.
keep at the Library of
But
Congress, right?
but you get your number because that way you can put it in your front matter.
Yeah, yeah. And they assign you a worker. They actually assign you a caseworker.
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
a caseworker.
Yeah, yeah.
If you have any glitches, that person will be in touch with you.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's very easy. I've gotten Library of Congress numbers on all of my books.
Yeah, that's what you did for mine, James.
I know. But I want to ask them because that way we can talk about it on the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
yeah,
didn't see it
yeah.
on the list.
Yeah, well, I didn't create this list. The internet is my friend. I'm going to skip a few things so we can get to the end so I can prove John wrong that we can finish this list. All right, identify scheduled book signings, public speaking engagements, and other promotional activities. And I want to ask you, John, did you do a book launching for your book?
Oh, yes, in Los Angeles.
Okay.
That's where I was living when The Boss first came out. Had it, of course, at a well-known Italian restaurant.
Good.
And let's see, I do recall, I could tell you, it was early May 2012. The book had just come out. I had hardcover and paperback. And I believe that the restaurant held, I think it was like 76 or something like that. We had 96 people there, and I sold about 150 books.
Oh, my God.
Fabulous.
Well, you guys,
Yeah.
I hate to do this to you, but we literally have to get down to the last minute of the show, and we're going to have you back,
Yes.
John. So
Yeah.
I'd like to thank
I'd
our
love to
Jacks.
come back.
All right, I would like to thank John Diamore and Morgan St. James, along with my co-host Janet Corsi. And John, where again can we find your book real quick?
You can go to deadfellas.com, DEADFELLAS.com, and there you can get copies of Deadfellas, The Boss, or you could buy a combo package of both, and they'll be signed for you, folks. But if you don't really need a signed copy, you can go to all your regular distributors.
All right, and Morgan?
Yeah, same thing. All the regular distributors, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, any of the regular distributors. And for Incest, Murder, and a Miracle, if you want an autographed copy, you go to incestmurderandamiracle.com, and on the contact form, send a message that you would like a signed copy, and Cheryl and Rob will get you a signed copy.
All right. Well, you can find this video after the show airs, and it'll be on youtube.com/aspects of writing. We won't see John's face, but you'll see Morgan and me and Jan. And then also, this show will air on iHeartRadio once the show's aired on AMFM247.com. In addition, we archive all of our shows on aspectsofwriting.com. And all of our links to all of our locations are on aspectsofwriting.com. So you can go click on a button to iHeartRadio from there. You can go and click onto YouTube from there, Roku TV from there, and there's 14 terrestrial stations. So just go to aspectsofwriting.com and you'll hear of everything or see everything you need.
Just scroll to the bottom of the page. That's where all those icons are.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, there's a thing in the middle, too, there. So until next week, this is your host, James Kelly, reminding you, if you can dream it, you can write. And thank you so much for being on the show, Morgan and John.
I love it.
Thank you. It's been a
John,
pleasure.
delighted to meet you.
Yes. Nice meeting you, Janet.
All right.
Yeah, nice to hook up with you again, John.
Thanks, John.
Are we off now?